I'm Marisa Craig, and welcome to this edition of Business is Up. Today, we'll discuss a very important topic that you'll start hearing more about over the next several months. So imagine this. Over the next 25 years, the number of people living in the city of University Place is expected to double. And that has all of us asking some questions. Where will they live? Where will they work? And what will traffic look like with all the additional residents? And what will our main streets look like? Well, today we'll talk about the city's journey towards becoming a regional growth center and what that means for the city's future. So with me to help tackle all these important questions are David Swindell, Director of Development Services, and Cliff Quisenberry, Chair of our Planning Commission for the city. Well, welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, so well, to start, David, describe your position with the city and the role you play in the city.
Yes, I'm the Director of Planning and Development Services, and that department is in charge of our long-range planning efforts for the city. For example, planning for the Regional Growth Center. But we also implement those plans in our department. For example, when somebody comes in to develop private property, either for a subdivision or commercial development, they come in to submit their plans to our department. We'll review them against the city's regulations and issue the permits. So those include building permits, plumbing permits, and the like. And then we do also work with the fire marshal on fire code issues.
Yeah, your department is fairly busy. Everything and anything that has to do with construction, development, everything, I know.
That's correct, and we're getting busier.
Yes. Now, David, for as long as I've known you, it seems like you've been pursuing this designation of the Regional Growth Center for the city of University Place. What exactly is a Regional Growth Center?
A Regional Growth Center is an area where there has been a historical higher density, more intense development on population and employment. And it's an area where, because of that, future growth and development will be directed. The reason is because these areas have existing infrastructure and facilities and services, so it's more economical and cost-effective for new growth to be directed towards centers. Centers are also meant to be places that attract people and businesses. And in order to see these and help these centers grow, they tend to have a mix of commercial, retail, residential, and civic uses. Many of the centers in our area are located in the city centers of larger cities.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, people may wonder about that. You know, city of University Place isn't as big as Tacoma or Seattle or any of those other cities. So why a regional center in the city of University Place?
Well, that's a great question. The Growth Management Act requires us to plan for future growth. And each year, the Office of Financial Management at the state projects how many more people are moving into the area and how many more jobs that we can expect. Because of those projections, we have an idea that there will be a significant more number of people moving into the city. According to some projections, between 2000, the year 2000, and the year 2040, will grow by approximately 23,000 more people and add 10,000 jobs. So we are already starting to be a larger city, and we will continue to grow to that.
That's pretty amazing. Almost like we said, doubling the population of the city.
Correct.
So who establishes who gives these designations for Regional Growth Center?
The Puget Sound Regional Council, or PSRC as it's typically called, designates these regional growth centers. It's a long process, and as you indicated, I've been working on this for a long time, and so it begins with a designation as a candidate regional growth center at the county level. So we've got approval from the county itself, and the majority of the jurisdictions in Pierce County, other cities, including Tacoma, Lakewood, Puyallup, for example, all indicated that it made sense for the city of University Place and an area within the city of University Place to be designated as a regional growth center. From then, once we had that candidate status, we then applied to become a fully fledged, if you would,
Yes.
regional growth center designated by the Puget Sound Regional Council, and they are the local or the metropolitan planning group, if you would, for 4 counties. That's Snohomish, King, Pierce, and Kitsap counties. So they're the ones that provide that designation.
So we're part of a big regional planning effort, really, or coalition. But there must be, in addition to just thoughtful planning for, more growth, more density, there must be other reasons why the city is so diligent in pursuing this designation.
That's correct. Since we're expected to grow by almost doubling our population, we feel that it would behoove us to get as much financial help as we can in order to support that growth in population and employment. Being a regional growth center provides a priority for federal transportation funding that is distributed through the Puget Sound Regional Council, So it's an important designation to get so that you are more competitive for grant dollars to support your future growth.
Definitely.
And it recognizes the fact that we as a city are going to grow.
Yes.
And so you might as well get the designation and get some of the funding to help you accommodate that.
So with that, Cliff, you've been involved with the city as a citizen volunteer for a number of years now.
Yeah,
Thank you for doing
that.
But what is? Can you talk about the Planning Commission a little bit? What is the Planning Commission, and what's your role in it?
Yeah, it's a group of citizens. We're all volunteers. We get appointed and approved by the mayor and the city council. And really our role is, and in fact very much in line with what the Regional Growth Center's goals are, is to aid in planning and accommodating growth and kind of the future of the city. And so we get involved in terms of making recommendations to the city council and items like the comprehensive plan. That's almost like the constitution of the city. It has the goals and kind of the policies of what the city is. And then beyond that is the zoning code, and we get involved in various aspects of that and working closely with David's group and staff. And again, it's about dealing with growth of the city and planning for it and making sure that it's a vibrant and nice place to live.
I know you guys are always busy because you're like a quasi-legislative commission, and the council looks to you guys for a lot of help in some of those land use issues that they have to tackle. But in terms of this whole regional sub-area plan, I think we're calling this whole process the sub-area plan. What specific role, is there a special role that the Planning Commission is doing for this particular task?
Well, yeah, and just to go back, I mean, part of that, we play an important role with that regional growth center designation. We're at this provisional level, and because to accommodate the growth, that requires sometimes changing the zoning code. It's putting additional verbiage into the comprehensive plan, and so those are things that the Planning Commission is definitely involved in directly. As far as the ad hoc committee goes for the sub-area plan, we have one designee, I'm an alternate to this group that's part of this committee. It's a 9-member committee, and it's really their role to develop this sub-area plan, to designate the areas that are called these sub-areas within the Regional Growth Center, and then develop, using both input from the city and the public and experts and professionals, ways to develop that, designate those, and find out ways that you can actually improve or meet the conditions.
So can you talk about the sub-area committee a little bit, and who is this group? And in addition to, Cliff mentioned Planning Commission, I know that the Economic Development Commission is also...
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I think that needed to be clarified. The ad hoc committee and the sub-area plan are requirements, if you would. The ad hoc committee is not technically a requirement for being designated a regional growth center. But the Puget Sound Regional Council has designated the city or an area within the city as the regional growth center, as you know. But they have tacked on a term called a provisional. Much like we initially got a candidate regional growth center from the county at the county level, now at the regional level we are considered a provisional regional growth center, and we will remain with that status until we are able to produce a sub-area plan for the Regional Growth Center. And the sub-area is an area or a sub-area within the city as a whole. That's why it's called a sub-area plan. Now, it is important in any kind of planning effort, community planning effort, to get as much citizen input into the process as possible. And so the City Council decided that they would like to establish an ad hoc committee of people who had either a financial interest or a property interest and just a citizen interest, if you would, in seeing what happens in the future in this Regional Growth Center. And they will, the ad hoc committee, lead the effort as a citizen level to develop the sub-area plan along with a consultant that we'll bring on. The ad hoc committee, the 9 members, will then make a recommendation to the Planning Commission and then ultimately on to the City Council.
Yeah. So Cliff, this must be kind of exciting because usually you have your regular group of planning commissioners or an economic development, but in this instance, you have just regular local residents.
Right, and you get to work closely with the EDC, the Economic Development Commission.
Yes, and they all volunteered and wanted to be, because how long are they going to be
well, we have to do it by December of 2017, so it can be a 2-year process.
It's a pretty committed group of people then, because a lot of probably learning curve, but with the help of the consultants.
And it's nice because we went out and we advertised for these positions, and when we did that, we looked for people with a variety of knowledge. So we've been able to get people from the real estate industry as well as legal. And
so a good representative group of local residents and all with kind of interests there. But Cliff, David mentioned something about sub-area plan. You're not talking about designating the whole city as a regional center. Can you describe that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Regional Growth Center is really 465 acres out of about 5,400 acres that the city has, and it's along the main commercial corridor. So it's really most part of Bridgeport, it's Mildred, and then the 27th Street. And so that's the Regional Growth Center. Then within there, the sub-areas that we're looking at, the city's designated 3 of those. It's the 27th Street Business District, the Town Center District, and the Northeast Mixed Use District.
So you're going to have 3 separate plans for all those sub-districts?
Well, it'll be one sub-area plan that has 3 districts within that greater sub-area. And the idea behind that is that these areas have typically grown up or developed over time with a separate sort of identity. The 27th Street District was our original historical town center, if you would, where the old Red Apple is, and Narrows Plaza area or northeast corner was developed in the 70s as a mix of large uses, including the theater there and the bowling alley. And then the town center developed later on, or actually between the two, if you would, when Bridgeport Way was rebuilt. The stores like Albertsons went in. It was originally a Piggly Wiggly, and that has its own character as well.
So Cliff, the whole point of it is, if we're anticipating that many people moving into the city, I'm sure people are wondering, where are we going to put all those people? Where are they, where are they going to live?
That's the Regional Growth Center, and that's really where you want to put them. That's the area where we have the most capacity for housing, for job creation, for economic growth. And what that does is if you focus it there, then it allows you to preserve the residential character of the residential neighborhoods, which is really important to the city and the residents. So, this is a great part about planning is, we've seen cases with cities where you get essentially that density going throughout the entire city and business showing up and things getting rezoned in residential areas. This way we've got kind of a focused area that we allow that to happen. And we can accommodate it there. And it, again, preserves the rest of the city.
I'm glad you clarified that, because I'm sure a lot of people, when they hear that many people moving in, oh my gosh, it's gonna completely change the city. But okay, so population is one thing, but a part of this requirement also says we have to prepare for another 15,000 additional jobs, right? So that's why the Economic Development Commission is part of this whole ad hoc committee. So what does that exactly mean? Where are we going to find that?
Well, that's a real good question. The jobs are going to have to be accommodated, again, primarily in the Regional Growth Center, and where we're looking at doing is seeing if we can attract businesses that have a fairly high density of jobs per acre. For example, an office tower has a lot of jobs within a very small area versus something like a warehouse where you have very few jobs but in a very large building in a very large area. So in order to accommodate those types of jobs, we're going to have to look at certain properties within the cities, and what we've got is we've identified some properties we call opportunity properties. These are vacant commercial lands or undeveloped commercial lands where we'd like to go out and involve the property owners, bring them in, talk to them about what they're interested in doing with their properties in the future, and to see if the city is able to help them basically develop the highest and best use for their properties, and using this process as a means to do that.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to ask the most important question because in addition to trying to imagine where they're going to live and the jobs, I know people are wondering, what about the traffic? I mean, people think we're clogged up enough as it is, like some intersections. So how are we going to deal with the traffic?
Well, one of the key planning efforts that we're doing here in the city as well as around the region is to try and develop a more multimodal transportation network. And when I say multimodal, I mean whether it's pedestrian, whether it's bicycle, transit, ride sharing, personal vehicles as well, obviously, that's going to be the bulk of it. But we're looking at developing our streets, and we have been for a number of years, to provide those bicycle lanes, to provide those sidewalks for people to get to work and to homes. Now, in addition to that, the center is looking to be a mixed-use, a compact, pedestrian-oriented center. And that means that many of the jobs, hopefully, will be close to where people work. It's called the jobs housing balance, where we're
live
trying
there,
to
you work there, you shop
you
there.
Work there. Exactly.
Hopefully you can walk to some recreational park, pocket park or something like that. Cliff, as a planning commissioner, I know you guys have been stewards of the comprehensive plan, but also the values that are important to City Council and our community. So with all this planning and the density, the population, and the changes that we're expecting, how will we protect the character and the flavor that makes University Place such a special city? Right.
Well, I think an important part of that process in the sub-area plans is you may have design standards, limitations, but again, by its very nature, that's kind of the beauty of it, is that by designating this regional growth center in these sub areas where you're going to allow that growth, you really are protecting a lot of the character that the city places a lot of importance on. So, but certainly there, and that's really the involvement of the Planning Commission. We, as a group, have to balance both the economic interests of the city as well as zoning codes and kind of development restrictions and things like that to preserve that character. But the great part is that we have the same kind of goals in mind. We want to grow the city, make it viable, and do it in a balanced way. And so we're going to accommodate, certainly in some cases where we can have growth, but we're going to make sure then to protect really the real kind of character, especially of the residential neighborhoods.
And to some degree, we're kind of seeing a little bit of the start of that really with the downtown and some of the town center development where the residentials come in, where we're seeing stacked units of residential living with mixed use and commercial on the bottom, right? So, okay, as if you're a community member and you're concerned about how will this impact my property if you're living along 27th or probably one of the residential areas abutting Bridgeport, how can a citizen get involved?
Well, we plan to do a lot of outreach to the community and businesses within the Regional Growth Center and throughout the city, and also to business owners and property owners. We have the Ad Hoc Committee. They will be holding public meetings and workshops. We will be advertising those in the city's website as well as on the newspaper. I personally have been going out to different groups, stakeholder groups such as the West Tacoma Chamber of Commerce, to TCC, contacting some of the service providers like the police department, fire department, school district, and bringing them into the fold as well. But I would say that the best way is for people to watch shows like this where we're talking about it, and then also to pay attention to the city's website and newsletter.
Right.
And we'll be notifying the public of how to get involved and who to write to and when we'll have those public meetings.
Because that is one unique thing about this planning process too. It's not just an internal process like David was talking about, in addition to a local resident who's interested or wants to, you know, create the vision for this additional growth. I mean, we really are doing this in conjunction with other municipalities and neighbors, and like you said, stakeholders, because Tacoma Community College just abuts the northeast corner, and you mentioned the city of Fircrest.
That's correct.
The city of Tacoma, and some other multi-agencies that have a stake in doing that. And when you say invite them to residents to community forums, what is that exactly? Or is it just going to be presentations, or is there going to be an ability to kind of more interactive?
What we're hoping to do is have some sort of interactive workshops where people can, you might say, get their hands dirty and look at various uses and maps and think about the types of uses that they would foresee in the future, where that density that we talked about would grow, and then from that, hopefully develop a vision for what the whole area, the sub-area, will look like in the future, and then help us figure out how we're going to get there. We need to develop a series of goals, and then we need to have actions to implement those goals.
Okay.
So we're hoping that the citizens will help us determine what that vision is, what our goals should be, and what actions we need to take in order to implement.
Cliff, as far as the process, how long is this going to take, and then what's next? So you hire the consultant, process-wise.
I think we're waiting for the next step. We've made the decision about the consultants. The consultants are going to come to that ad hoc committee and make a presentation and do some research and do some work, and then propose essentially a plan as well, and then again involving the stakeholders and the community is going to be part of that process. But yeah, it's going to be, I imagine this is going to go pretty close to to the end of 2017 when we have the deadline, and that's the goal, but it's an important part of the city's growth.
And then it becomes a formal document, or at the time when this ad hoc committee brings the recommendation, then it gives it then to Planning Commission?
It should go to the Planning Commission. We ourselves have a chance to study it. At some point we have a public hearing, so again you have an opportunity for the citizenry to come in and provide some input, and then finally we would make a recommendation, formal recommendation to the City Council, and they would study and approve it.
So it sounds like it's a fairly tight, extensive, but very structured process. And again, it's the city's website.
That's correct.
And the
newsletter.
UP Press. I know you've already started an article, and there's going to be more of that. And just look around for notices, I guess, on how to get involved. So, well, it's been a very interesting conversation. And I'm sure that we're going to have more of this, I hope, so that we can keep letting our viewers know what's going on and how we're progressing, because it's a very important task that we have to do here now in the next 18 months, I believe.
Certainly is.
Okay. If you'd like more details, such as the meeting dates, the times, check the city's website, thecityofup.com. And for UP TV, I'm Ariza Craig, and thanks for joining us for Business is Up.